Dobar, kako je?
Dobro, kako si ti?
Super,
Drago mi
super.
da te vidim.
Također. Awesome, amazing.
Gdje živiš tamo u Hrvatskoj?
Dubrovnik,
U
na jugu.
Stari grad, baš lijepo.
U starome, u zidinama, da. Ok, moramo izabrati. We should do English?
Yeah, I think English is going to work for everyone because my cameraman Ricky, he's like, guys, can you please speak English? He's Cuban. Ricky, come on. You saw me yesterday?
How are you, Tomo?
Hey, hi.
Going.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. So we are live. Thank you for agreeing to do this first and foremost before everything. This is an honor. Everything I'm seeing from your channel has been amazing and it's so great. So especially for me that I just fairly recently started YouTube, and to be able to meet all of you and all kinds of masters from around the world means so much. So thank you so much, Sifu, for doing this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure and honor for me too.
Thank you. Or there we go. Should we start? I'm doing these are usually very informal, and I like keeping it to be a friendly discussion. But of course, we can always talk about specific stuff so that we don't wander off too much. But I think you can start with a little bit about your background, especially for the viewers, especially on my channel. Maybe some aren't familiar, and just a quick story, and then we'll jump in to Kung Fu and Wing Chun.
Okay. So my background is I was born and raised in Germany, in Berlin. So I'm a pure Berlin boy, so to say. My heritage is Serbian. I come from the region in Croatia where the sadness of the civil war happened. It's the region down there, Kordun. So we are known for being nice people, but a little bit stubborn and bullheaded. Yeah, but very good-hearted people. And I grew up in Germany, and I had a tough time back then. As a little kid, it was the time when the foreign guest workers, like my parents were, just came to Germany. So the German society had to arrange themselves with us. We have to arrange ourselves with them. So it was not easy all the time, but we managed it somehow. But I saw I need to do something because we grew up in a very nice but simple neighborhood. So it was always like violence, brutality, fighting, brawls in the street was a daily topic. Even though I was playing soccer, you call it in the United States soccer, we call it football or Fußball in German. And this is how I started to do martial arts. And my first teacher was my father. My father is a black belt, a first dan carrier in full contact kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. He was a student of the famous George F. Bruckner. He attended a lot of seminars with the late Al Dagascos, Benny the Jet Urquidez, Superfly Billy Wallace, Joe Louis, and they all had a big impact on him. And of course, his life experience, because he grew up in a very poor situation after the Second World War. And so he infected or implemented my brother and me with a spirit of endurance, fighting, and trying to be always upright. And my mom gave us always the strength of mental strength to endure hardship. So my mom is the one with the mental strength, and my father is the one with the fighting spirit. And all of this came together. So I was dedicated to the martial art always. I was more into soccer, and I was close to be a professional soccer player, but it didn't turn out this way. So I went all into martial arts. And of course, I had a lot of fun. And back then, what was coming up big time in Germany was the Kyokushin Kai karate style. And I joined this too, because the harder it was, the better I felt. Yeah, it was. We were young, stupid, and it was all about, regional fights. This is our area, this is your area, and whoever was looking for the best girls should have been a good fighter. And up to my early 20s, I realized that how good I was, and I was able to stand pain because this is conditioning. What I went through since I'm a child, this was one of the main purposes. My father told us, you want to be a good fighter, you have to be able to stand pain, because everyone can throw hits, everyone can punch everyone, but it is about how good are you and enduring pain, hardship. When it really hurts, when someone brings you down, you have to rise like a phoenix. So this is part of my whole education and being raised as a child, as a small little boy, as a fighter. And but I realized in all the fights I had, because my purpose was always to fight in the streets. And I realized the bigger the contenders were, the harder it was for me. And of course, sometimes I looked like a car accident, like a full damaged car. So I need to gain weight, because it was always like, hey, you have to have weight, you are too light, because I'm not that tall, and I was always ripped and light. So I skipped all the martial arts for 1.5, almost 2 years. And I started to do bodybuilding because my brother, he's 1 year older than I am. I have a brother, and he was doing big time bodybuilding, weightlifting. Strong guy, strong as hell. He still is very strong. And with his almost 53 years old, a lot of young guys cannot keep up with him. When they go to the gym with him, they quit after 2 weeks because he's very old school. And
Right.
so I started to train with him. I gained weight. I became stronger, but more stiff and slower, of course.
Of
And
course.
then a friend of mine introduced me. He was a full contact fighter, a great full contact fighter, even on tournaments, to the Wing Chun style. And in the
Ooh.
beginning, it looked very ridiculous to me. So, but the same school was offering Eskrima, La Tosa Eskrima. So I started with Eskrima first, because the stance, the having a weapon in my hands, it was felt more familiar and what fighting is about, and not with this weird triangular stance what you have in Wing Chun. And this is almost 32 years ago. This is how I started. And the first month I struggled with Wing Chun because I didn't see any real purpose in that, because having a screamer and all this forward going stance and being violent with a weapon and the whole brutality just fed everything I was looking for. But then I had a teacher. He's my Sihing, or he was my Sihing. I don't know even if he's doing Wing Chun anymore, but he was one of my best teachers I ever had. His name is Kai Hodek. I still dedicate a lot of thank to him, because he was starting to explain me the core theories of the Wing Chun system and the whole spirit I have for fighting and the whole brutality and strength. He was trying to tell me and try to show me how I can canalize all of this through the theory of the Wing Chun modos and the way we have to practice. I should practice the Learning Ting Wing Chun system.
Okay.
So I went all in for 1.5 years just to do what he told me. Because, of course, I had my Sifu, but my Sifu was my Sifu. So every master in every style he knows and he's capable of doing things. But someone who was more close to me, because he was not doing it for so long, but he was very capable of executing all of this. Because back then he was a 12th student degree, I think, and he was technically great, perfect. And so this is how I started to have the journey in Wing Chun, and then I stood more and more and more. And after 1.5 years, I started to teach kids first, and then I started to take over adult classes. So for 30 years, I teach Wing Chun.
Perfect.
So
Well, that's quite a background, quite a journey, I can imagine.
yeah,
And like for me, especially maybe for like viewers, because I'm guessing a lot of people from your channel will also be watching. So maybe they don't know much about me, and to, To be honest, I always say this. I have very little formal Wing Chun training. I've only
Mhm.
trained it formally, very little, but I never forgot it. I never left it out. It was always living with me, and for as much as I could on my own, I would train, I would watch, I would talk, and I would uh, explore it on my own as much as I can. I still do it today, even though I'm really now an amateur mixed martial artist, and I also do JJIF Jiu Jitsu, which is not BJJ, but of course
Mhm.
it's still all the same stuff, just in a different
Yep.
context. And it's still Wing Chun is something I cannot ever leave from me. It's always part, even though if I'm being honest, I'm not like the best example of what Wing Chun can be done. But that also, I think, is its strength because I do show it visibly a lot of its concepts, and I'm not a master. So I tell people, can you imagine what someone like Sifu Miloš can do if I can show you an application? And really, I've only feel comfortable understanding Silum Tao, just the first form. Everything else is I try to take it in from the internet. But of course, it's different when you have a proper teacher, but I can still do it. So really, to me, the criticism that Wing Chun gets online was never. I never understood how people just go to surface level and just leave everything else out. I'm that type of person that likes to scratch beyond the surface and go deep. And you can be wrong. Everybody can be, but we have to be honest and we have to go deeper. So to me, like I'm my own example in the sense of if I can figure out Wing Chun on my own and show just a little bit of it, what can proper training show? So that's a very interesting topic, especially now we're on YouTube, we're on the internet. And Wing Chun is one of those very infamous styles that everybody's always arguing, and it's, oh, is it good? No, it's bad. No, it's the best thing. And it's like, to me, it's fighting. Like, the differences of styles are more or less culture, uh, preference, way of training. But what really happens in the fighting is all pretty much the same in the sense that it's all fighting. And it's something that I can never wrap my mind around. Like, how do people not understand that Wing Chun is also a fighting art? It's not supposed to look like a Ip Man movie. That's movie. Nothing looks real in the movies. But a punch is always a punch. A kick is always a kick. So if you have like any thoughts, especially on the online internet criticism, because I'm sure people are there's always going to be at least one who's going to be in the comments and say, no, Wing Chun, that's bad. So do you have any thoughts to continue today?
I always have different perspectives, always, because one perspective never fits when you, as a guy like you who loves to dig deep, fits at expectation or even questions. So, first of all, I want to name one thing. 10,000 years ago, a punch in the face was a punch in the face. Nowadays, a punch in the face is a punch in the face. And in 10,000 years, a punch in the face is going to be a punch in the face. So when everyone is telling me there's a traditional, classical, old school martial art and they are modern, there's nothing modern about being punched in the face. We still do it with our upper limbs, with a fist. Sometimes we use the palm, sometimes we poke an eye, sometimes we kick, okay? And when you see that people, even people who never had any martial arts experience, we all do from our nature core phylogenetic program what they
Yes.
call mixed martial arts. Because if someone grabs us, we grab back. When we go down, we rumble. Then we try to strike. Sometimes we try to kick. So what is it then what they call mixed martial arts modern fighting? I understand that this is now became a big sports name or a sport brand, and
Yeah.
it's legit and it's fine. It's great for entertainment, and you have vicious strong fighters there. They dedicate themselves to this, and this is good. They're gladiators, paid gladiators, okay? But like nowadays, you call things like kalinetics and whatever they give modern names to things that are ancient. People in ancient time did it. So there's nothing new about moving your body. Of course, we have different challenges in our modern, very comfortable world. So we have to try to get people out of the comfort zone, to give them maybe easier steps or different steps to come in and get and move again. Okay, so this is the general view I have on things when you have to tell someone to be active. It doesn't matter what kind of sports, it doesn't matter what kind of activity, just make him active. And this is what I try to tell the people all the time. There's nothing modern or scientific new in moving your body. It doesn't matter in what kind of circumstances. Swimming is and was swimming. Riding a bicycle was and is riding a bicycle. And doing martial arts was and is doing martial arts. Okay?
Yes.
So, and there's a difference. If you want to be a fighter, you don't have to dedicate yourself very deep into the whole core theories and philosophies of martial arts systems, because you have one goal: to survive a situation that might occur on a specific time, place, and space, or just for fun because you're a person who needs that. Okay? But if you're looking to be a teacher, not a trainer, everyone can be a trainer, but to be a legit teacher. A teacher is someone who should always be a role model and a beacon light, who should guide. So you should understand first the core theory of your own system. It doesn't matter what lineage or where it comes from. There's a core theory for every system. You should understand the core theories of other systems. So you should study other systems too. And then you should be able to talk about the physiognomy of the body, the psychological aspects, because you are guiding your students for a purpose. And especially nowadays, where the sports brand mixed martial arts is so big and so great, everyone, and you can see it on the internet, is claiming that a self-defense situation is an epic fight. A sparring situation should always be an epic fight. Okay? And however you narrow it down, however you just put it to an essence, they always want to see this epic fight or this special move. So for me, this is very ambiguous. And of course, people like you or me or others, like my dear friend Elon, who are exposing themselves out there just to try to motivate people or to show them different approaches towards martial arts, we are always confronted with people who want to be entertained by bloodshed, want to be entertained by this one move. Interesting is, I'm a European guy. And especially when you're from Europe and you look at the history of martial arts, there's a very, very interesting thing that the East Europeans love hard striking martial arts, and they're very good in it. South Europeans, what I'd be like, I would call the Turkish people, the Greek people, they're very well in their grappling, wrestling styles. Okay, so they're good fighters and striking styles too, but they love more to have a combined stuff, maybe of wrestling and somehow a little bit boxing, because even boxing they're good. But the Eastern European styles, they're very dedicated into some kind of judo, but especially in all this striking hardcore styles. Okay? And this is when you look at that whole development and how the things were, because the learning system was introduced first in former Yugoslavia with Slavko Truntic and Prosenica Milan.
Yes.
And this was the first step of the learning Wing Chun system. And the second step was Germany with Grandmaster Kanspech. But as the Balkans people are, they were a little bit lazy to see that you can manage to do whatever it is, a business system out of that. So this is what Grandmaster Kanspech did pretty well. He created a whole business industry about that brand and way of teaching it, which is a phenomenal thing. But Learning Ting was first proven under hard circumstances of challenged fighting situations in former Yugoslavia through Slavko Truntic and Prosenica Milan. So a big shout out to these guys. I think Milan Truntic passed away and Rosenica Milan is still alive, or the other way around. I don't know now exactly. Okay, and European people, it doesn't matter where they come from. The difference is when you give us a task, we go for it. And we practice as much as we can just to get through it, to have the understanding what we are doing, because we want to get in use of this what we were given. Okay? And it depends on, or you, it relates to the times of the old Greek martial arts and everything what was going on there, swordsman and all of this. So do one thing, dedicate yourself to that, and then you will find out how your body responds and all of this. Especially when I came to the United States, I've never seen more people coming here to the school and trying to collect as much techniques as they want, as much as they can get. It's all about to collect from here, to collect this, to collect that, which was a little bit weird for me. I knew that this is something somehow like that, but in the end of the day, I don't say that they're lazy, but they're collectors. So, but there is a saying, the more you collect things, the more excuses you have for yourself when things are not working. So someone who is a collector of techniques is a collector of excuses. Okay? Everyone in the United States tells you the claim that Bruce Lee said, fear the guy who 10,000 times practiced one technique. You don't have to fear the guy who has 10,000 techniques, but when you look here, especially the guys who are coming from the mixed martial arts sports tradition or brand, they always want just want to collect techniques, okay? And this has nothing to do with fighting, and to expose yourself all the time to some rules tournaments has nothing to do with fighting, because this would be then someone who never did martial art would not be a fighter. But I know a lot of guys from Germany and my home country that never did any kind of martial arts, but vicious and dangerous as hell. And I would never pick up a fight voluntarily. If I have to defend myself, I'm gonna do it every time. But this is something I don't like, the approach of martial artists that only a trained, whatever they mean, being a trained guy is capable of doing something. No, we have it in our phylogenetic program that we are able to do that. Now it's all about how the society you live in is conditioned. And if you live in a very comfortable society, it is harder for you to motivate yourself to go through hardship. If you grow up in more simple circumstances, it is easier for you to work through hard things, to endure things. So you see, I have a different approach to all these questions and stuff, and this is how I see martial arts at all, especially when it comes to fighting. I just want to add one thing, which is scientifically proved, and a lot of people don't understand how the nervous system works. A real situation, so a real life situation, not a planned or a fight that is dated on a specific day. When it comes to a real situation, you have to protect yourself. It is always 85% psyche and only 15% mechanics. Okay? So if someone is capable of 15% mechanics, techniques, 100%, but of the psyche part, he only has 30% of the situation, and the guy comes in there, has no knowledge about anything, but has 100% of his 85% psyche, guess who's going to win the fight? So you see, you have always to consider more than one pattern, more than one thing when it comes to realistic situations. And we are all human beings, so we are all beatable. No one is invincible, no one is unbeatable. And everyone should have this humbleness from himself to understand sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And especially to bring it back now that I'm thinking, where you mentioned the famous quote, and also how it's different when you're collecting techniques versus when you're trying to master almost like a language that it's all self-circulating and self-empowering. Like good examples, especially in the MMA world, for people who are interested more in the MMA, is think about Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's been doing the same things from day number one up until his last fight. It was always the same, always same plan, same techniques, same style, and everybody knew what he's gonna do, and he still beat them because he was not a collector, not an explorer. Which again, if that's what you want, sure. But if you were talking about like fighting or at least being zoomed in on like that task, that's the approach to go. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that things like Wing Chun can serve the same way. Like for me, of course, like especially at this moment, I'm closer to somebody who like, explores stuff. But like you and a lot of Wing Chun people who dedicated their time to truly like zoom in and master it in the true sense of the word. Not like, oh, I got a belt or something now, but really master it. It's the same thing. It's the same effect. That's when you really sort of when you imbued yourself into that one thing. And examples of that are everywhere. It's not just like Habib or the UFC. It can be anything. Talking about military, about police, about history. That's what is true, like purity. Not like purity. "Oh, I don't like other styles. Mine is the best." But purity in intention of seeking mastery. That to me, that's the thing that I respect the most when I see. Or when somebody's a judoka and they've got like incredible mastery of the system and they're good at other things, they can always train and know enough, but there's always that sort of core thing that collects itself. And it's always in everybody to a certain degree, of course. Even when you're, for instance, Olympic class judo players, they do know all the techniques if they're black belt, but they will use only two or three because that's what's the core. So that's very fascinating, especially to think about Wing Chun, which to me seems like a very uh, conceptual martial art, but also very simple when you think about the application. Like all the theory is complex, but that's because you're deconstructing something simple as a punch. And at the end, it's still just a punch. But everything that's hidden inside it is where Wing Chun teaching lives. And that's what always brings me back to Wing Chun. Even when I compete in Jiu Jitsu and I focus a bit more maybe on grappling or judo elements, I always come back where it's like, oh, like this movement. And then I'm thinking about the form and finding the same movements. And then you realize to somebody it just looks like a one trip, just like "Oop, do a sotogari or do ashibarai," but you think no, it's like an entire system of moving pieces. And that's what I love about Wing Chun, because it seems like one of those martial arts that lives in that the most. Probably there's other examples, but maybe I'm biased. I really enjoy how what Wing Chun is. So to me, that's like I could think about Wing Chun all the time. Like that's and maybe because I never got the full proper training, so maybe that's even why I'm more interested because it's so fascinating. So
So the big misconception about Wing Chun is that the people don't really understand what the whole system is about. Okay? Wing Chun was never created to fight the same styles or the same style patterns. Wing Chun was always created from the first day against all other styles. And the beginner should always learn how to go forward and manage and occupy his space with striking techniques. The high sophisticated stuff in Wing Chun was created to be able to compete against other masters, high skilled level masters of other styles. So the high level Wing Chun is to be able to fight those guys. And this is why Wing Chun, yes, in the beginning, keep it as simple as it could be. And this is something, so when the time I started to learn Wing Chun, We all were guys coming from other styles. We came from wrestling. I had a lot of Turkish friends, and we just practiced Wing Chun against wrestling. Then full contact. Doesn't matter it was kickboxing, Kyokushinkai karate, or Thai boxing against great boxers. Okay, so in the beginning, when you're new to the system, you don't know anything about the system. You start to go in, and yeah, we after the normal class, we did our own classes because we want to try out everything. So you go home with bruises, hurt, bleeding, whatever it is. But this is how we started to understand more and more how to use the system properly and how to simplify it. And of course, back then, we had great examples in the Learning Ting lineage. We had guys like Sifu Emin Botstepe. We had guys like Sifu Saliavci, Sifu Turanata 7, Sifu Thomas Mannes, Sifu Frank Ringeisen. And then in way of moving, we had Sifu Heinrich Pfaff. And so we had great guys, or Sifu Tassos Panagiotopoulos from Greek, because he's very short. But you see, when these were our role models and these were our examples how to apply Wing Chun with the most basic stuff, but being aggressive. Because for us, the purpose was fighting and not exploring or experiencing with any kind of nice movement. Okay, we left it to the others. But then when we started to learn more and more the most sophisticated stuff, so we started with ourselves to bring all the stuff, and we knew from our other styles. We were all brown belts, black belts from other styles, so we brought stuff into that. And some of us just challenged other guys from other styles, and so it was always to bring it in proper use for real circumstances. Okay, and it was never. You will never see me, and this is one of my biggest complaints. Of course, if a student has a task and you teach a class for one specific movement, you have to tell him that's the attack, that's the counter. In every martial arts, it's the same. But you will never see me if someone is new and he asks me if Wing Chun works. You will never see me asking him to attack me this and that way. I always say the same thing: do whatever you want. Because if you want to explore and if you want to experience, if anything I do and I say works, do whatever you want. Okay? And this is my way of approach. And I don't mind. I really don't mind. And I really don't care if someone wants to try it for real, or if someone, and there's a lot of people who just wants to have very respectful approach, of course, with pressure, with power, but a very respectful approach to feel if Wing Chun is really powerful. And the big pity about the Wing Chun is that, but the main problem are the teacher and the masters in the system. Of course, the high sophisticated Wing Chun gives you a very big space of comfort zone, because you can hold back the guy in the distance and you can play around with him. But they all become lazy and they exclude themselves for being a human being and being still a student and how they start. Okay? So this is how they ask their students all the time to do what they make them look good, feel good, whatever it is. And this is how the bad reputation starts to kick in. And this is, you see, I never complain or attack other styles, because I first have to clean my own turf, and this is my own Wing Chun style. This is why I always call out my Wing Chun colleagues, and I don't care if you feel offended. If you practice Wing Chun properly, it's going to work for you. If you don't practice it properly, if you're lazy, if you always want to look good, if you want to always tell your students to do something that you look good and what makes you feel good, then you're a lazy scam and you should not be a teacher. And that's my opinion. This was always my opinion. Of course, our channel is new and people think I come from nowhere. No, I have a 30 years of experience, and even in the association I joined, the EWTO, and everyone knows me in Germany for being honest and for proving my point, or be ready to prove my point all the time. Because if you're a teacher, you should be a beacon light and a guidance for your students, and even a role model for being someone who practice eager. I don't mind going down with my students on the ground, sweating with them together, even with my almost 52 years old. I'm still doing this. I'm still doing my own training. Like this morning, I had my third 3 hours training routine by myself. And this is how I think about it being a teacher, or why Wing Chun has a bad reputation, or when it started. Okay, it's always starts when they start to learn and understand the high sophistication of the chi sao. And chi sao is not a fighting skill. It helps you to understand better how to move, to be not dependent anymore on a specific technique, but the movement is what it makes. And Wing Chun is pretty easy. Stick to the core theories and the mottos, which is big bow tip da, means space occupying step and non-stop attack. Then one of this is my favorite motto in Wing Chun. Yat kun bit sat means first punch must kill. So your first punch and the energy you bring in should tell the person this is not a joke. And then we have this another motto which says it says kun mo hu fat, no targetless punch. So only punch and strike when you have a legit target, and you can always only have a legit target when you're in the right space, when you in the right range. And this is how you bring everything together. So it doesn't matter what kind of technique you use. If you follow the mottos, you can apply that. And the next thing is practice to be able to strike hard and viciously. There is no powerless punch or knockout. Oh, for Wing Chun, you don't need power. Yes, you need power. You need muscle power, you need structure, you need everything. But this is what I don't like about the majority of Wing Chun teacher, master, whatever they might call them. And this is the people I named before, who were in the European Wing Chun organization of the Liang lineage, our role models or examples. This is where I looked at, and this was my goal. And I still, from my generation, have a dear friend who still practices like this. I'm going to say hello to my friend Sifu Kenan Yilmaz from Berlin, a great dude. And I want to say a big hello to my friend Sifu Alex Richter from New York. He's a great teacher. And by the way, he is one of the best guys who is going for the Wing Chun history, and who is doing a great job about that. So everyone who wants to learn about some history patterns of the Wing Chun system, call him, look his channel. He's great in that. And so these are the guys I respect a lot from my generation, because I know how they practice, I know how they are. And this is what I really admire. If someone is a good teacher, dedicated teacher, is not holding back things, not having favorite students or secret moves he hides, or someone who still goes the hard way, the dirty way with the students. And there's some guys in my generations who are still like that. I named two of them. And otherwise, yeah, Wing Chun is a great system, gives you the opportunity for everything, but you have to practice it like that.
Yes, that's wonderfully put. And I see I'm guessing there's 16 people. So I see that you wanted to do questions. So if people have questions, they can go.
Of
But
course,
if it's
let's go.
okay, if I'm the first with the question.
Okay.
And this is more technique specific. So or sort of like Wing Chun specific, not like conceptual of the histories and everything, but like nitty gritty, like mechanisms of how it works. Because in my experience, when I would think about what I learned and what I know from the first form and from all the chisao I do, and of course exploring online, since I do like JJIF jiu-jitsu, where there's a lot of karate, like Shotokan karate, and you know how that is. You're at the distance, you throw kicks, you're doing everything not to be in the clinch. And in the second rule set, where you do go into clinch, there's no more punching. Now you have to only throw and do grappling. So it's almost empty where Wing Chun
Yeah.
works. But I also did MMA, where I could do what I want. And it's always, for me, it felt like when I'm at a distance, that's for me, at least my personal understanding, that's not where I would be able to use Wing Chun. But when I would press somebody against the obstacle, against in mixed martial arts, a cage or the ring, or if it was like in training against the wall, because they cannot go back, I realized that at those moments, that's where the most of theory just like came out like on its own. Because I'm thinking, if I try and pressure with like wrist control and I try to deliver quick punches, maybe go roll with the bonks out to go to the neck and keep going. If there's space, people move back, so I have to keep going. Eventually, they're next to the wall, and they literally, in my experience, become the makyong, the wooden dummy. Unlike the heavy bag, I can't go around it. I'm here, and it all clicks. So to me personally, most Wing Chun I see visible for people who are the ones who say, "Oh, can I see Wing Chun?" And then you show them a punch, but that's not Wing Chun. That's just a punch. And for those people who want to see like specific visible Wing Chun, that's when you press somebody against the cage. They can't go anywhere. The relentless pressure is just coming. And I haven't seen many people, at least on YouTube, of course. Like my experience isn't the best. I haven't met all the people, of course. But I think that's an important element that I would love to ask you. Like if you have comments on how that works when you press somebody against the cage, how much the tripod theory works, the unmoving elbow, the like if I'm close here, I don't want to go with a hook. Like I'm here. Like I already have you with the elbow. I can already go and go underneath. So if you have some wisdom to share about that, that's something I learned on my own by exploring Wing Chun. So that's something I'm very interested in.
So you're very, I can see that you're very eager in trying to collect knowledge and practice. Okay, because this is a very detailed question and a
Yeah.
question from experience, and I like this a lot. So we have to understand Wing Chun has different stages. So every form tells you a different thing and prepares you for a different occasion
Hmm.
in meaning of status of development. So the Sinum Tao form teaches you to move your upper limbs individually of your body core. Okay?
Hmm.
And the Chomsky form teaches you orientation in a three-dimensional room and to bring in simultaneously footwork and arm work with different moving patterns. Okay? So, on the same time, you simultaneously move legs and arms with different moving patterns. Okay? In the beginning, everyone who's doing Wing Chun in the beginning, so for the purpose of securing yourself, you said it right. When you start to thrust in with a Wing Chun wedge theory, you punch these guys away and you have to chase them. Okay, this is why we have our chasing step in the Wing Chun system. And this is, you described it very well, and this is a good way to keep up your security. Because we say in Wing Chun, as long as you're not trained or sophisticated enough with a chi sao, don't try to engage into close combat where someone who is close combat trained is very good at.
Hmm.
Because we never want to be inside of someone's arms.
Hmm.
Our safe spot as a beginner is always on the outside. Okay, this is why we always try to pass. And we have a saying in Wing Chun, don't let anybody come through the main door. This is why we stay like this. You see, it's always a wedge. Okay, always a wedge. Doesn't matter. Even the bong sao is a wedge. The jump sao is a wedge. Okay, this is all a wedge. This is all a wedge. Okay, so don't let anyone through your main door. Okay, and it's a saying in the Sun Tzu theory too. Always attack the weakest part of your opponent at his with your hardest or your strongest weapon. So if I engage someone through the midline, okay, this is where we have the most power. And everyone is very good in defending himself here. But when you attack someone from an outer angle, from outside, it's hard for him. Okay? So this is what we teach all the beginners. Try to corner or to come from a diagonal angle to attack someone. This is why you have the three main movements Wing Chun practitioner should practice and thousand of times is a paksa, which is a slapping hand, okay, and a slapping hand executed properly. And I like to show it all the time on seminars and when I have new students. After the third or the fifth slapping hand, no one wants to have a paksa anymore from me, okay? And it doesn't matter, it can be the forearm or the upper, it doesn't matter where, no one wants to have it a second time, okay? But this is not what makes the fight. Simultaneous movement, bump. Okay, so the next thing is what we call the lapsao, the deflecting arm. It's just to make space on the front arm of your attacker to move in. And you have to move over your bridge, okay? Our wrists are the bridge scope where we have to go over. So you see a lot of Wing Chun guys, they do this, and then they parallel come in. So you lose all the coordination here, and you use the power of the cross-working pattern of your muscle structure. And this is why it never works as someone lifts his arm. You will never be able to overcome his arm. When you do any kind of movement you do with a bridging arm, go over your wrist. So you're supporting the whole muscle structure. This arm gets supported by this arm, and even this arm supports this arm not to come up. Okay? It's a vice versa support of your own limbs. And this is how you start to pin in. Okay? And the next movement is striking, striking, striking. Paksao, lapsao. Keep it as simple as it is. Practice inline paksao, outline paksao, and practice lapsao from all angles and move in. And always don't do a single arm movement. And if you make way, we have on Wing Chun the body chasing theory. We say don't go for the arms, go for the opponent's body. So whatever you do, how you violate his arm, his guard, you go in, you have to chase the body, and this is how you start to pin. So in the beginning, it is to chase him off in front of you, okay? Like a ram. So the more sophisticated you become and the more comfortable you become with the Chiso movement, if you practice a little bit, this is how you can engage now someone who is capable of doing something and who is not moving backwards, because your attacks maybe are not so intimidating because he's capable of abandoning force somehow. So now you have to find some ways, okay? And the highest level of Wing Chun, and this is why the Mokyang Chun is taught pretty late in the system, because you have to understand everything. It's short range power to come in and just use the first gap to have a vicious, strong, hard strike. And even when his structure is very strong and stiff, that you can move around without that he is able to push you away. Okay, so you maintain the power where it is, you walk around and move around. So he's just observing his own execution. But this is very, 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 very high level. And so everything what you're currently doing is right. Improve on that, and you will find out more. I hope my answer helped you a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially because this will be on the channel, so it can all be rewatched and watched again. So any piece of information, no matter how detailed or complicated, people will be able to watch, and they can always go back. And that's, like especially here in Croatia, and I'm guessing everywhere in the Balkans, the famous thing is ponavljanje je majka znanja. Repetition, repetition. So this is the great thing about today. You can film yourself training, you can film discussions, and you can always come back to deepen the knowledge. So absolutely it all helps, and I'm sure to be watching this conversation many, many times to find more clues and pieces. So for me, that's a totally satisfactory answer. But I'm guessing there's still people, there's 16 people, so whoever has genuine questions, and there's a lot of people and a lot of great guys in the comments as well.
Thank you.
Let me see.
Give me some questions.
Let's see. Um, oh, we have Pacific Brawling talking about something about Aikido. That's also an interesting topic that I would like to maybe some other time or at the end of this one uh, talk, because there's also a similar connection with Chinna, but that's another can of worms. So there's jokes as well in the comments that are very language specific, but let's not do. uh, if you have someone pinned against the wall and they can't go, you also can't go forwards. That's specific rolling. That's a comment compared to the previous question, but I don't see anything new. So let me see. Maybe up
Okay,
there.
I see a question here. Someone is asking me about the turning stance, the Junma.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
so let me explain this. Um, in the lighting system, turning stance is moving your body balance, your body gravity shifting away. Why? Because if a force comes in and I only turn, because that's a misconception. If someone says "tuma," it's a turning stance, okay? And the misconception is they just turn the body, but it's
Mhm.
always a shifting of the body weight. Always has
Oh,
to be. Why? Because it's never going to help you. People don't understand if I'm here and the force comes in here, I'm not going to be able to stop the force from moving forward. Even if I punch this guy and I don't hit him that he gets knocked out here immediately, he still has forward going force. So when I just turn, I'm still here. Okay? So I violate everything what the whole chump Q form is telling me. Okay? And this is why I had a conversation and questions about how our foots are turning. So
mhm.
everyone can practice it by yourself. Buy yourself a wooden beam of 10 centimeters, like this. 10 centimeters is, I don't know, 4 inches. How much? I don't know. Okay? So, and then try to turn on your heels and you will fall down. Try to
Okay.
turn on your toe balls and you will fall off. Okay? So you have to turn on your midfoot to be
Mm.
able to shift your body, because never be there with your body where the strike ends. And it's a theory that is for weapons and for fist fighting too. If I'm still there where the strike ends, or the gravity of the body weight of the attacker, I will never be able to abandon any kind of force. Okay, so this is in the Lengting system, we say the Junma is not turning or twisting, it's shifting the body weight and then you turn. And this is simultaneously done. So in the beginning, when you stand like this, practice just this, that you're able to shift a little bit, and from here you turn. And in the end, it becomes this. Okay?
Yes.
And here we have three different angles. Okay? We have the half turn, which is 45 degree. Okay? And you have to understand when to use it. You have the full turn, which is 90 degree, and you have a 60-degree angle. Okay? But you
Mhm.
have to understand, and this is what the forms are telling you, when to use what. But always keep in mind, the more acceleration and force comes in, the more you turn. So a 90-degree angle might in the beginning help you, because this is like, I got rid of that. Because a half turn, even when you do the half turn, okay, the 45 degree, the whole body should be out of the body width of your opponent. So if your
Yeah.
body opponent's width is this, and even if I have a 45-degree angle of turn, the Junma, my shoulder has always to be out of his shoulder belt, okay? And you will never be able to execute this kind of movement when you're not turning in the middle, in the center of your foot.
Yes.
So you have to nail your center of the foot, and you move around that. And always one foot after another. I'm going to explain you why. The human body is a building that is narrow and tall.
Mhm.
So when you look at the Eiffel Tower or the
Ooh.
So the basement there has to be wider, like this. Okay? So whenever you have a narrow, tall building, your stance has to be wider.
Mhm.
And whenever now you want to move this building to one way, okay? So now keep in mind, this narrow, tall building has to be moved that way. Okay? So before you put the building here to that side, you have to have your structure basement. So this is why when you move simultaneously both feet, you're always late.
Yeah.
You're always late. So move one foot first and then the other. It looks then in the application simultaneously, but it is never. It's always, because if I move my body, my building that is narrow and tall to this side, I have to anchor first and then put my building on that, okay? Because otherwise it's gonna collapse. It's just physics. It's just static, and you can read it up. Every guy who is good in math and physics can explain you that. And this is why we say in the Leung Ting Wing Chun system, everything we say, it is scientifically proved biomechanically and physically.
Absolutely. And I think any grappler, wrestler, or judoka will agree, will understand the concept. It's just it's usually different names and different approaches, but when you get into the detail, like, it's more agreeable than disagreeable. It always is in martial arts. It's all universal stuff. So, of course, it's just that whatever angle you take, it's gonna have a different perspective. But to me, like, whatever it's done in Wing Chun, when it's like proper, it's always just universal body mechanics. And to sometimes people then criticize, but how is that special then? Why is they still want that movie Wing Chun? But it's like, you two guys.
Yes, they want to be entertained. They want to be entertained, and that's the pittiness of the internet, of the modern times we have. Um, the time that people are able to follow things or to stay on a topic is just for seconds nowadays, just for seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, so you see the capability to, like what it was back then, reading a book. So staying on a topic is not there anymore. If it's not an entertaining movement, if it's not a special thing, whatever it is, what catches my eye or my interest, they swipe off.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, they ask themselves, oh, why it's not going to work, or why I don't believe that's going to work, because you don't dig into it. You don't take yourself, so you don't respect yourself, or you don't take time to explore things.
Yes.
Okay, and on a philosophical way, everyone shows with his behavior if he respects himself. And this is what some of the comments shows me. If someone is not respecting himself, I don't have to expect any other of his attacks, answers, questions, whatever he has. Okay, so there's another question I read here. I will answer this one, and then I will give you the chance to ask me questions from our subscribers or guests here. So I have the question about the Bajam Do.
Oh.
Yes. How does the Bajam Do form relate to the other forms? Sinum Tau Chamki Buchi Mokyang Chong Fat in terms of underlying concepts and hidden ideas. Okay, so very interesting. Very interesting. There are some guys who can answer those questions even more detailed than I am, and one guy who can answer this very detailed is Sifu Miloš Drakulić. He's great in that. Okay, he's doing a great research in history of Wing Chun, and there are other guys, but I like him. He's my friend, so this is why I Sifu Alex, shout out to you. And yeah, the Bacham Do system is almost one-to-one, almost one-to-one brought in from the Buchi form.
Oh.
Okay, yes. And the one who brought it in is Grandmaster Yip Man. Okay, because when you look at the Wing Chun system, how it was built and what kind of circumstances, there was never the idea of weapon-based fighting. Okay, when you look at the core theories of the system. So, but there was a need to have something to apply against other attackers with swords, knives, whatever it was. Back then, of course, Wing Chun practitioners and masters, they had some weapon fighting skills and systems.
Of course.
But the way, and I tell you, this is how I learned it. So if the person who told me the history about that was saying something wrong, now I'm saying something wrong, okay? But there are things I read about this, and I was told that Grandmaster Yipman brought it in, and the only one who was taught the whole four Bajam Do form from the beginning to its end with all the explanations is Grandmaster Leung. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yes. And otherwise, of course, there are a lot of, because when I see Wing Chun people moving with the double swords, double knife swords, okay, which are so famous.
Yeah.
The Bajam Do, the Bajam Do, the Bajam Do, okay? I do for 32 years a weapon-based system, La Tosa Eskrima. And if you pick up your Bajam Do, it doesn't matter what you want to do. The first moment I see if you really have any relation to weapon fighting systems. And 99% of Wing Chun practitioners, masters and grandmasters have no clue when they pick up Bajam Do and they practice. And you can see, because you will never see. Can you do me the favor, Ricky, and bring me my Bajam Do knives? I want to show you something.
Yes.
In ancient times, when the gladiators or the Spartans, whoever was it, or even the samurais, when they practiced, they always practiced, even when they had blunt knives, swords, or even made from wood. The weapon always had the shape and the weight of their real fighting weapon. Mm-hmm. There's a saying in weapon-based martial art: practice with the weapon you're going to fight with, because our body is, our nervous system needs commands, okay? And our nervous system will only respond and execute commands that are brought in.
Right.
So you can see my double knife swords, how they look like. They look used, right?
Yeah.
And they are very sharp. I can shave myself with them. And I have nothing else to practice with. When I practice the form, I always practice with these.
Right.
And they're pretty heavy. And everyone who comes across, he's like, wow, they're pretty heavy. And this shows me that this person never ever practiced his Bajam Do with real knives. Because you see, they're moving these plastic aluminum knives very quickly, but then give them real application, real weight of real weapons, and they all start to wow, and they all get stunned in this moment, and they're all startled. So you see, they're starting to be afraid of their own weapon they're carrying with them.
Right.
So with someone who does weapon-based martial arts, and I do it, and I always practice with that. I even, when strange people come, random people coming, and they want to ask me or they want to be cocky, I give them sharp knives to attack me. But I tell them, you will have to live with the consequences, because I don't joke that, okay? And because I'm used to that. So when you go back to ancient times, okay, it is so common sense and so easy to understand. Why should I practice even with a blunt weapon that has a different weight or size or shape than the weapon I'm going to practice with? My body's never going to get used to that, okay? So this is why even here I have a complaint. People, dear colleagues, if you use the Bajam Do, pick up a real steel knife. Can be blunt, so you have security, but practice with them. And you will see your movement is going to be slower and not so precise anymore. But you see, I can move my knives fast and very precise. Okay? Why? Because I'm practicing it for years, and almost every day I carry them, I practice. And so there is no relation to the other forms, but only to the beauty form. And there is no relation to the system, because it's a weapon. So you have to treat a weapon as a weapon should be treated. Okay? But this is why it comes really in the end. If you want to learn how to fight with a weapon, do Filipino martial arts, or traditional European sword fighting.
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
And a lot of people don't understand that the Spanish rapier school is still one of the best weapon-based and most dangerous martial arts schools in the world. I was lucky to meet two guys, and I practiced with them. And I tell you, very dangerous, very deadly, but very interesting. The traditional Spanish and even Italian, but I like the Spanish more. Rapier school, very deadly, very sophisticated, great, 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 great.
That's
Yeah,
super cool. And especially now,
yeah.
if I can quickly, before we take more questions, also a little bit of a recommendation as well, because it sparked my interest, because there's a YouTuber uh, who's, I think, a HEMA practitioner and does general history stuff, that some time ago now surprised even me and everybody that he's actually trained in some Wing Chun, and specifically in weapon forms. And there's a video on YouTube where he's sparring with metal knives, but they're just blunt, against a HEMA practitioner with a sword. And like you said, it looks nothing like the fast, quippy. Two people, it looks like, oh, sloppy stuff. But one interesting thing is that everybody in the comments there, suddenly there's no like, oh, Wing Chun sucks. It's all like people who understand weapons and HEMA fans and people that are interested in history and Wing Chun people that do the knives. And it's all like completely different than the side when people are talking about MMA versus Wing Chun and all that nonsense, because they understand the history, they understand the weapon, and they know for it to not look like Star Wars or like movies. They understand that it's not going to look quick and clean, that it's going to be smaller movements, that it's going to be heavy, and it's not going to get too many clicks because it doesn't look fake. It looks real, and reality isn't movies. It's not going to be spinning and going and flying. So that's also interesting how weapon martial arts community is different than sports hand to hand community. But yeah, I can maybe link the video later. I think it's Lindy Beach is the name of that channel.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm mispronouncing it, but there's a sparring video just right there, proof that Wing Chun works. Whatever you can say, there you go. So yeah, and if there's any more questions, let's. Let me see. Oh, Pacific Brawling has a question. If this is for you, if you want to answer this one, how is Wing Chun used for legal self-defense? He said like minimizing damage in terms of like avoiding arrest and lawsuits. Like, how would you use Wing Chun but not hurt the person too much?
So I have taught a lot of law enforcement and even special forces. I was teaching the Broward Sheriff's SWAT team here in those kind of tactics. I have my own program for that. And in Germany, I was doing the same thing. And people have to understand, first of all, what is a police special force, what is just normal police, and what is military. Okay? In Europe, as a police officer, even the specialized police forces, so let's call it the European SWAT teams, okay? They are forced in order to have a civilian approach, okay? And so it's civil, it's not military, okay? In the United States, it's different. The United States SWAT teams, the specialized teams of FBI, police, whatever it is, they use military tactics. They don't use civil tactics, okay? Because they say if someone takes hostages, if someone has a gun or a vicious, deadly weapon, he uses military tactics. Especially if someone takes hostages, it's a military tactic. So you can never, with the civil tactic, beat someone who has a military tactic, okay? So you see, even this question has to be looked from different patterns. So in the United States, you have to understand, you have to be really able to do that.
Mhm.
to go very, let's say, viciously, but without causing deadly problems for someone or damaging his health with unrepairable injuries, you have to understand the second Chi Sao application section of the Wing Chun system, which deals with arm bars, locks, how the joints work, okay? How all of this is. But it doesn't matter how sophisticated your movements are. Always keep in mind, you will only be able to take care of someone without really viciously or brutally harming him if he gives in, if he sees that it makes no reason. As long as he fights back, you can only answer fire with fire. So all these, what you see in movies or people try to tell you, oh, he's going to do this and I'm going to do this, and then he sees my sophistication and he bows down to me, okay, and he's not doing anything, he don't want to go anymore. No, it's not like that, because if you smash someone on the floor just with a swipe and he hits down, even because of his panic, he's going to have a stiff body movement. So he's going to have a protective action, okay, because his nervous system tells him, prepare yourself, maybe there's coming more. So you see, you have to put in consideration too, are you able to read those signs? That is he panicking or is he fighting back? Is he doing defensive movements because he's afraid, or is he fighting back? So there's more to this. This is why I have established my own self-defense system for someone to have a safe escape. So even here, you have to ask yourself, if you're on duty as a law enforcement person, then you have to practice even more because you have to take people in custody, right? But if you're not working for law enforcement, then your goal is to get away unharmed as soon as possible, okay? Because if I teach one-to-one the whole Wing Chun tactics for the beginner and only like that, you go in, bam, 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 smash them off, and that's it. The opportunity that he gets really badly injured or even worse is there, and it's pretty high. And my goal is not just to make my students able to protect themselves. I have to even protect themselves from themselves. Why? It is very easy, and this is what my father told me since I'm a kid, because he saw and he realized that my brother and I, we go out and almost every day was something going on. He said, listen, guys, it is easy to kill someone like that. It's very easy. But to carry him on your soul, this is very hard, because you have to go to bed every night with that, and you have to wake up every morning with that. Can you do that? And this is what I tell my students, okay? It feels good to have so much power to overpower someone or to have power on someone. But you have to ask yourself, is your goal to get away unharmed as soon as possible? Or is your goal, are you on duty, law enforcement? Are you a military guy? Then it's different. The talk is different. The understanding is different. The preparation is different. So you see, even here, there are different perspectives. So that's why my answer, someone might not be specifically on that point and so easy. I always love to put some perspectives in that people see that it is not just black and white on this and that, because the circumstances and the occurrence giving the heat, so giving the taste of the situation.
That's, to me, a great answer. So I don't want to immediately chime in every time, because there's people in the chat. So anytime that can be used for more questions, for me is great. Victor Simpson asked, would you and Elon consider doing a seminar in near future?
Yes. Yes, we talked about this. And I'm going to do a knife defense seminar, but the name is wrong. You cannot defend a knife attack. Okay. It's more than how to handle to get away more or less unharmed. Yeah. That's the theory always for me. Because if someone tells me, oh, no, yeah, there is a knife defense, this is why you never see me that I show a knife defense in classes or on video on YouTube. No, because if someone asks me with my whole experience, is there a legit knife defense? No. Yeah. There's not. But can you create a way to get away from that more or less unharmed? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But everything you want to be capable of, you have to practice, practice, practice. So this is one seminar. And the other one is that we are planning to do something to give people different forms of experiences to see and understand what is our way of thinking about martial arts. What I like about Elon, first of all, a lot of people underestimate. Elon is one of the most vicious fighters in his mentality I've ever approached in my life.
Yeah.
And the same thing I can say about his good and big heart and his nice personality and strong character. And this always comes somehow together. If someone is willing to be so ruthless and harmful to someone who attacks him, on the other hand, he is a great, nice, and very soft person in some circumstance, very understanding, very mindful. Okay, so this is what I like about Elon. And he's, if someone would ask me if you want to go voluntarily like against a guy like Elon or like him, like, no. Okay, if I have to, I would. But this is what I like about him. We are sharing the same mentality about that. And the same thing what we share is that a martial art is only that good as the practitioner and the teacher who uses it and to show it. Okay, and this is why we want to do something together. We haven't figured out yet in what way, but we want to like to show people different approaches. And even if there's different approaches, they will have the same result of experience and outcome for themselves. So it's about pick something what sticks more to you or to your mentality, what you feel more familiar with, where you see yourself in. There, for me, there is no bad martial art. Every martial art has its purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so you will never see me to talk down on any martial art. As the practitioner, of course, do I talk down on my colleagues of Wing Chun? Yes, because I'm a representative and ambassador of my system. I want it to be presented in the best way. So, guys, think about before you embarrass your colleagues doing something that's ridiculous, okay, or expose yourself. And that's my opinion. I will never change it for anything in the world. And this is why Elon and I, we consider definitely to do the things together as seminars. Yes.
Absolutely. That's great. Elon's awesome. That's how I found when the first video dropped on his channel, because I've been following him for a while. And I was like, oh, Elon's doing more Wing Chun. He's going deeper into Wing Chun, because he had some Wing Chun people as well. But then like you came and it was like, oh, this is now gonna be, this is special. And then just video after video after video, then your channel grew, and then me and Ricky spoke from like very early, and it was like, oh, this is something special, and I'm glad that this is growing. And especially now that you say about the opinion, if I can interject a bit, then we can maybe continue. I'm not sure. First of all, how much time do you have? Because I haven't made the limit. How however.
Okay, let's say give us 12 more minutes. It's fine.
Is that good?
Yep, 12 more minutes is good. Okay, let's go. More questions. I talk a lot, so we need more questions.
Yeah, definitely. We got people. So, is the Sifu Miloš and Guru Ilan is the martial arts equivalent of Superman and Batman. Martial arts world's finest.
I like that. I like that.
And it's a lot of praise and a lot of good people. I don't see from my end. Do you maybe see questions? I don't see.
I've seen a question. Someone asked me about the similarity of Muay Thai and Wing Chun. Okay, so Muay Thai, the Muay Thai system comes from the Ling Lum system. So the Ling Lum system is the family of the Thai martial art, what's back then was called Siam, and it has the same border with southern China. Okay, so of course, if people do something on one side of the border, on the other side, they pick up things, and it's always an exchange. So the Ling Lum system, I was happy and I was lucky that I joined a seminar. I think it's almost 26 years ago in Germany, where Grandmaster Super Strapong, who is a grandmaster in Ling Lum and Muay Thai, he is a Thai guy, was hosting this seminar with Grandmaster Leung Ting, and they were telling us the story about the similarity of the Ling Lum system and the Wing Chun system.
Oh.
So all these systems, you have a pattern of Chiso then too, and an approach, some theories and some fighting theories are similar.
Oh, yeah.
So the only martial arts system that is a striking system that goes in and stays in is Wing Chun. But you see, even in Muay Thai, they have some theories. If you go in, how to stay in to maintain some knee locking while you are holding or bringing elbows in or just passing the arm guard, whatever it is. Okay. So Wing Chun does it on a way different level because the way Wing Chun was developed is different. But there are some similarities. And of course, you can see there in this border region that people from South China and people from North Thailand were practicing same things. Either it's Chisa or some other fighting techniques. So there are similarities in that, okay? And nowadays, what we see, what the Muay Thai system is, which is a great system, okay? But even every time a system becomes a brand or a sports tournament, it's only then an essence of it, an exclusion of the whole thing. So the Muay Thai system is way more than having gloves and going in and fighting in rows and rounds of a couple of minutes. Okay. So I was lucky in my life that I had martial arts teacher in any system I went to. Okay. And I did Thai boxing too. I did wrestling too. I had teacher, they taught me all the time the core theories of a system. So when you don't know the core theory of the system, what is the saying, what is the goal of the system? It will always be technical based that you have learned this, but you will never get through it. You will never just be able to dig into that. So when I explain something, what I explain my students all the time, maybe it helps all of you guys out there. Every time mankind wants to preserve informations to pass it on, it's done in codes. The alphabet, what we have is a code. Every math formula is a code, okay? So every form in the martial arts system is a code that preserves ideas, mottos, movements, and purposes of the system. But if no one releases the code to you, teaches you how to read the code properly, you will never find out or read the system properly. So if I just give you the alphabet, and if I just even give you the opportunity and teach you how to pronounce and spell the letters, right?
Yeah.
You will never be able to build proper words or proper sentences. So you see, everything what mankind wants to pass on is contained in codes. So if someone is not teaching you the meaning of the code,
Exactly.
it's just a replication of something you're not aware of.
Exactly. And that also comes into the problems of traditional martial arts. And when you look at the history, a lot of people forget when they talk about like boxing, how we know how boxing works. And then Wing Chun, we see a bad Wing Chun practitioner, and suddenly all of Wing Chun is bad. They forget different society, like after a war, and entertain an idea. And there's no video, there's no documents. We only have pictures of boxing. And you see those pictures and you have no context. Will you develop right away the complexity of boxing? No, you will get things wrong. And it will take time and actual sparring and scratching the surface to get what it really is. And with a lot of traditional martial arts, people forget that it's not always whatever you see, that's it. Because when you look at today's Shotokan karate, which is a great style, but it's nothing like the original karate. Neither version of today is similar. People forget original karate was bare knuckle, no gi. That's a judo thing. This is Okinawa, my man. That's not Japan. That's its own thing. But things change over time. So
Yeah.
people forget that. And then they say this imperfect image they have, oh, that doesn't work. But you don't know the real context behind the alphabet that you were saying is. So don't people forget to think about that. So that's such a wonderful analogy. I had to comment on it because that's so good. What I heard.
I tell you, look, I have in Germany 600 students. Okay, so if you have in this amount of students, you will understand very quickly that you have to pass on knowledge and codes, and you have to deliver the understanding and the explanation about the code. Okay, so I don't have just experience for myself how I do martial arts. I have 600 students, and we're doing pretty well in Germany. And this is my goal to build it up here in the United States. So this is why everything I say, it's proven by my experience, and I prove it to everyone who wants to experience it in any case, under all circumstances, and on any terms.
Yeah, and I just
That's the Balkan. That's the Balkan guy in me.
yes, yes, absolutely. Anytime spar, do whatever. That's I can quickly go on a bit of a tangent because I can relate to a certain degree. One of my personal favorite techniques that I do, it's a grappling one, and it's the kotegaeshi from Aikido. Can you imagine how many people tell me it sucks, it's no good, it's wasting time without knowing the context, without knowing I'm also MMA fighter and also do this and I know what I'm doing. Like I know that it's not ever going to be the best technique of all time. I know that it's low percentage, but I can do it and I have shown it many times on video on the channel, and still people, just because it's connected to something they've learned, sucks, they immediately think that it's not. And I'm always like, if you don't want to look at the videos, if you meet me, I can show you. It's totally okay. And I've been in situations where I would say, no, 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 this part of Aikido is actually pretty good, and they would be like, no way, let's roll. I catch the koregaeshi there, go, oh, okay, that's new. And it's like, sure, it exists everywhere. It's also in Chin Na, in a lot of Kung Fu, it's everywhere. It's just not gonna be high percentage. It's gonna be something
Yep.
that can happen if you're in the right moment, right time. But a lot of people
Yes.
forget that a lot of it can be like that as well. So I relate to the attitude of, I'm not gonna say if I don't know. If I do know, you can try it. It's okay.
Of course. No one is, look, no one is unbeatable, no one is invincible. No one on this planet.
Nope.
Because for one reason, we are human beings. We make mistakes, we have misconceptions, we have misunderstandings. That's the deal. And that's all the time. My father always told me it is legit to lose, but it's not legit to quit or to give up.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And it's we're exploring. We are gonna have opinions, but I always on my channel also say all my positions are more or less tentative. Like I can change my opinions based on new knowledge. That's how you learn. And the more something gets more evidence and more years of approval, the stronger the opinion is. But it's all tentative. It can all change. There was like nobody starts with knowing everything. So people should have an open mind, and that always helps. And I can see that practical.
One more, I have time for one more question.
Sergio, do you have a question? There's Sergio Perez, who's also a great kung fu fighter. He's in.
Let's go. Let's go. He should ask a question.
All right, let's see. Hola, combate práctico. I'm guessing Ricky saying hi. Let's see. If not, we'll find a question. So.
Okay, I see. There's a question.
Oh.
Okay, if you can you use Wing Chun principles in conjunction with MMA training, conditioning? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Look, one of the core theories in Wing Chun is how to deal with attacks in terms of force, in terms of fighting theory, and mental emotional preparation. Okay, and what I'm gonna say now, you can, it's all contained in this. We say in Wing Chun, greet what is coming and stick to that. follow what is retreating and thrust through
Mhm.
when the way is free or when it's empty. Okay? So if someone attacks me, he will not be able to strike as long as I stick to his attacking arm, leg, whatever it is. Okay? So we say, because chi sao means sticking hand. Okay? And lat sao means no contact. So speaking in terms of the Wing Chun system, if I do chi sao, chi, he cannot move of in a term of striking. But if I do lat, so he has to do lat to get rid of the contact to strike me. Okay? So greet what comes in. Get into that. Don't try to move away because you're giving him another opportunity. He can recalculate. Okay? Then follow what retreats. Okay? So he moves his arm back or his leg back. Just follow into that. Why? Because don't give him the opportunity to reload again. And you see, I'm just explaining technically, but you can implement it philosophically, fighting techniques, all your mental preparation and thrust through when it's empty. So whenever you have a gap, thrust in. And my father has a saying, uh, this is what I have on my Eskrima shirts. Okay, this is a big claim. My father said it. And by the way, guys, if you want to use it, it's a trademark for me, so don't use it without my permission. Okay, where there's blood, there's pain.
Oh.
Where there's blood, there's pain. De teče krv, tu boli. Okay, and this is why you can almost hit everywhere when you have a right conviction and the right picture and the strength and the power and the courage to do something that causes impact. Okay? But you see, it's another level of philosophy of mental status you should have. And this comes with experience and with true, legit, eager practice and not with just experiencing some lessons in a dojo, in a school, whatever it is. So you have to dedicate yourself to something. And this is, I like your approach a lot, Tomo. I like the way you do things because you don't you don't pay so much attention to a specific style, but what you do, you try to experience as much as you can with the styles you have, with the knowledge you have, to experience how your body responds to that, how your joints are working with that, how is your endurance with that, okay? How your whole cardiovascular system processes this, how your psyche works with that. So you're by yourself finding out what works best for you. This is the core theory of, by the way, of all martial arts. And I like guys like you. It doesn't matter if Wing Chun or Eskrima or another one is your favorite martial arts system. So this is a guy like you. I will always take my time to teach you things, to show you things, because this is what I like: dedication to something, to explore yourself, to expose yourself to a situation that might be embarrassing, hard, whatever it is. But this is what it is about, okay? And Grandmaster Yip Man was famous for one of his nicknames. One of his nicknames was Mr. Okay.
Oh.
Okay? Yeah. So Grandmaster Yip Man was a very dignified old Chinese decent man and master and teacher. So whenever he had students, and you have students, you give them a task and they practice because they want to experience and find out, okay? And then you have students, they do movements just to please the master. And then you have students, they always want to learn something new.
True.
And every time they were asking, Sifu, am I doing it right? He said, okay. Is this right? Okay. Okay, so you see, if someone shows no dedication or patience and endurance in things, it's you're throwing pearls to pigs.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is a lesson you learn through the years of teaching and teaching and teaching, and this is one of the reasons why I immediately said yes when Ricky asked me for the podcast with you, because I see how you approach things, and I like guys like you. Okay, I like everyone who's dedicated. Doesn't matter to what kind of martial art, who wants to go the extra mile, who exposes himself, because it's an experience. It's an experience. So if someone excludes experience, mentality, philosophy, and religion from martial arts. Okay, this is someone who has no clue. He is someone who is not practicing it properly, because all of this brings you a mutual and a better and a deeper understanding for yourself.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, what religions and philosophies were telling you. Okay, everyone, the claims are always big, like you have to defend your first enemy is going to be you. But when it gets a little bit hard and tough, okay, it's like, okay, lean back, maybe you're going to do it tomorrow. No.
No.
When it's embarrassing, oh, I don't expose myself anymore. No, it's, you see?
Yep.
And this is where it stops. And guys like you, no one likes to be exposed or embarrassed. But in the end of the day, I did it by myself. I was exposed and embarrassed a lot of times in my life.
Yep.
And I worked through that. And this is how you create yourself confidence. This is how you learn. This is how you manage to deal with things, how you change, and how things are changing you.
Yeah.
And this is the way of the Buddha. Okay?
Absolutely.
And people who don't do this, and people who know that, who have this knowledge and life experience, see immediately if someone is executing, doing things, saying things, if they are like this. Okay, so in my code of conduct, I say it. The majority of people are collectors of techniques, so they're collectors of excuses.
Yeah.
And the keyboard warriors belong in this category.
Oh, those are our favorite. I get
so
many of those too. But exactly,
I think it's a good sentence for the end, right?
exactly. And this was so much pleasure, and I don't want to take any more of your time, but thank you so much. And I'll always be subscribed, and can't wait to see more content and more stuff. And hopefully one day, if stars align, I'd love to train from you in person. That'd be so good. That'd be amazing.
Maybe next year when I go to the Balkans again, I'm gonna reach out to you.
Let's hope.
Okay.
But thank you so much.
So guys, watch Martial Geeks, watch Inside Fighting on YouTube, on Instagram. Follow them and follow us. My VLMA USA. Experience the best. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and take care.
Thank God and fala Bogu.